And this applies to your audience because your life is precious. Your life is precious. And tonight, when you put your head on the pillow, just think if the next 5 years are like the last 5 years, will you be happy with that? Well, if the answer is no, just stop winging life. You now have a chance to change it, to create the life you desire, and it only takes 12 minutes a day.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stephenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where our mission is to inspire you to live your most audacious life yet. Actually, make that your best audacious life. I'm your host, Audley Stephenson, and I'm thrilled to have you join us today as we explore the transformative power of mindset, habits, and actions. Every episode, we delve into the stories and insights of remarkable individuals who've embraced the audacity to pursue their dreams, break through barriers, and create lives of purpose and fulfillment. Just like a masterful conductor leads an orchestra, aligning each instrument to create a harmonious symphony, we too must learn to orchestrate the various elements of our lives to achieve our fullest potential. Many of us operate on autopilot with 95% of our daily actions driven by our unconscious mind. However, by learning to control these unconscious actions and harnessing the power of our emotions, we can achieve extraordinary outcomes. Today, I am honored to welcome John Mitchell, a successful coach and author of the book, The Missing Secret. John's mission is to empower individuals to unlock their true potential through practical strategies rooted in emotional control, high performance skills, and the clarity of purpose. With a wealth of experience in entrepreneurship and coaching, John has doubled the income of countless clients, and he is here to share his insights on how you can do the same. Hey, John, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you for taking the time to be here, my friends. Thank you.
Oddly, I'm glad to be here, and I think your audience is going to find what we're going to talk about interesting. But some of them are the driven ones are going to find it life changing, I think.
Sure. Well, hey, I mean, we're all about changing lives here, and I think, yeah, the one thing we continue to encourage on this podcast is living that best audacious life that you talk about, and I think what's really important to understand is that pathway to getting there is going to be very, very different. It's very individualized. It's very unique, and that may have its own set of challenges and pitfalls, but also rewards too, right? And so
Right.
for everyone. You come to us today as both an author and a success coach, and we'll talk certainly about your book, The Missing Secret. But maybe as a starting point, if you wouldn't mind just filling in our audience a little about you and the work that you do, and help us understand kind of what's got you to the point that you're at now to write the book, even.
Okay. Okay. Well, oddly, when I turned 50, I just wasn't as successful as I thought I should be. And I started my career as a CPA and became an entrepreneur when I was 30. And in my 30s and 40s, I was like in 7 different businesses. But when I hit 50, just not as successful as I thought I should be. And I had two goals in my life. One was to make enough money so I didn't have to work. And the other one was to find the woman of my dreams. And so, unfortunately, at 50, I was falling short on both of them. And on the money, I always did pretty well as an entrepreneur, made a couple hundred grand a year. And but at 50, and I know this sounds materialistic, but I realized I had to start netting $1 million a year if I was going to have the exceptional life I always dreamed of. And then on the girl at 50, I'd never been married, although I did a lot of interviewing. But well, I called it interviewing. My friends called it begging. But nevertheless,
I can relate on both fronts. So
right. I preferred interviewing. But
right.
but so at 50, I'm like, well, how am I going to change things? And then a pearl of wisdom comes to me. Find the top book in the world on success and apply that book literally word for word to my life.
Okay.
And so oddly, that comes to me and I'm like, that's a pretty good idea. So I start doing the research and I discovered there's one book that's been read by now 150 million people, and it's the top book in the world on success by a factor of 10. And that book is Think and Grow Rich, which I bet you've read, right?
Right. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Right.
Yep. We're
So
all familiar with it. Yeah.
So I'm like, well, this is perfect. I had no idea there was one book above all others. I'm like, this is great. So I'm like a heat seeking missile. The next day, I go out, buy the book, read the book. And then I discover the problem. Book says there's a secret for success, but the author only gives us half of the secret. It's on the reader to figure out the other half. Well, I'm bummed out and I mope around for probably 3 weeks. And oddly, one day I just wake up and I go, John, man up, figure out the damn secret. And so I immersed myself in the book over about 2 to 3 months and probably read it 20 times. And I ultimately figure out what the secret is and a 12-minute a day technique to apply it. And I start applying it to a new business I was starting in the reverse mortgage field. And and suddenly my income starts doubling and doubling and doubling to where 4 years later, I was blessed to be making 25 times the 200 to 300 grand a year I'd been making the prior 20 years. And, of course, I felt so incredibly blessed, but I could see why it was happening. I was just playing the game of life at a higher level. I could do things I could never do before, and I had a level of control over myself beyond what I'd ever experienced before. And I became fascinated that you could take two key scientific principles and apply them to your life
Mhm.
and so materially impact your success. And so about 10 years ago, I finally had enough money so I didn't have to work. And I thought, okay, I'm going to share this with the world. And I meet the former chancellor and president here at the University of Texas. And I tell him my story. And he says, hey, you got to teach this at Texas and let's teach it together. And so that led to him introducing me to the athletic director here at the University of Texas. And he says, well, I want to learn this 12-minute day technique. And that led to becoming the mental coach for the 18 head coaches in the athletic department. And so today I teach my class the science of success, the science of leveraging yourself to students, but I also teach my methodology to adults through licensing my methodology to coaches and also through my book. So that's what I do.
And so thank you for that. I certainly love the journey, right? And the also that reflective piece when you kind of looked at your life and where you're at. I am curious though, when you want to you indicate that you weren't where you thought you should have been. And I think should is an interesting word because oftentimes it sort of suggests there's something going on. We talk what should be or what should. Where did that come from? What did you think or what did you feel you should that should be? I guess.
Well, that's a great question. And I think it stemmed from the fact that I worked harder than all my friends.
Okay.
I'm a big believer in hard work, but I saw that hard work really doesn't work for making big money. It works for making uh, good money and more or less an average to good life, but you got to work smart. That's the big lesson. But I think to your point, the thing that was driving me was I saw that something's wrong if I'm working harder than everybody else and but I'm not having materially better results, then there's something I'm missing, and that was probably the driving force.
You take on you tackle, I guess, a book, very classic, as you said, worldwide, millions and millions of people have read this book. Was it daunting to be able to sort of pick up where it left off and add to it, considering how popular this book is?
Right, right. And well, let me, if you don't mind, let me ask your audience a question because this was pertinent as I started reading the book. So just think about this. How do you create success in your life? Just think about that. How do you create success in your life? Well, when I'm in person with people, I'll ask them that question and they'll sort of stumble around to answer it, and I'll recap whatever they say. And then the more pertinent question is, so how's that working for you?
Mhm.
Well, not so well usually. And oftentimes they've never been asked that question, right? And so they don't have an awareness of how they create success. And I see that what actually happens is that most people are just winging life. They don't really have a way of doing life. They're just getting up, doing the best they can, and they have nothing pulling them forward to their desired life. Therefore, they recreate their past.
Mhm.
And oddly, if you dig into this just a little bit deeper, here's what I see. We, as human beings, we all have two fundamental problems we have to overcome. The
Mhm.
first one is that we are innately wired for survival, which causes the vast majority of our thoughts to be fear based. So that's problem number one of being a human being.
Okay.
Uh, and if you think about it, being wired and fear based is exactly the opposite of how we need to be if we want to be productive, creative, and happy, right? So, being wired for survival is problem number one.
Mhm.
And problem number two is that 95% of our daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. Again, 95% of your daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. So the effect of those two things together is when you wake up each morning, your eyes open, hey, you're on autopilot most of the day. Uh, you're innately fear-based, and that triggers that negative inner voice. And it's a lousy, ineffective way to live. And I should know I lived that way for 50 years. And here's the solution. The solution is you create immense clarity in your life. You define here's exactly the person I want to be, exactly what I want to accomplish, and precisely how I'm going to achieve my clearly defined goals. And you feed that to yourself every day. And after approximately 21 days, the right actions start happening automatically. And
Right.
those right actions then create the life you desire. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I want to ask about the 21 days, and was there significance around that number, or how do you land on that?
Yes, there's significance to it that although I don't know that I can fully explain it, it takes that long to rewire your
Okay.
autopilot. um, and people say, well, it takes 21 days to form a habit.
Mhm.
I think that's sort of a coincidence as much as anything. But I see that if someone does this and feeds a succinct articulation of their life to themselves each day consistently at the approximately the 21-day mark, then a light goes on and the right actions happen automatically without thinking.
Got you. Got you. Talk about this 12-minute a day technique that transformed your life, or I guess your income
Okay.
drastically, if you will. What have you got?
Okay. Well, let me maybe explain this through another story that I think you'll appreciate.
Sure.
And this explains how I discovered the secret and what the secret is. So when I was 50, there was a little more going on with me than just feeling the scarcity of time. My mom was dying of pancreatic cancer, and I was living in Dallas at the time.
Mhm.
And so she was probably in the hospital for like 8 weeks. And so every day after work, I'd go see her and I'd hold her hand and love on her. And I'm telling you, it was everything I could do to keep from breaking down in front of her.
Sure.
And so I'd spend 2 hours with her and I'd leave, and then I'd go in that cold, dark hospital parking lot and just cry my eyes out. And I mean, 45 minutes of sobbing before I could even drive home. And this is happening every night for like 8 weeks.
Mhm.
And of course, I'm feeling the impending loss of my mom, but oddly, I knew there was something deeper because I have never experienced that level of angst and it's just excruciating every night. And so I knew there was something more going on. And what I realized was going on was I was letting my mom down with my life. I mean, my mom and dad gave me everything. They sent me to Jesuit High School in Dallas, and they sent me to the University of Texas. I didn't have to pay for a thing. And so as my mom was leaving this world, I'm reflecting about my life, and I see that I'm letting her down with my life because I was giving all the advantages, yet all I had to show for my life at 50 was the average life. And I hated the average life because I knew I was capable of so much more. And so, what I came to realize was that that feeling of letting my mom down was like rocket fuel in causing me to go deeper into Think and Grow Rich than anybody else on the planet ever had to figure out the full secret. So does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, no, no, it does, for sure, for sure, for sure.
And so, I remember there was one pivotal night that really changed everything for me, and it was during this time, and so I'd gone and saw my mom, and then gone in the hospital parking lot and cried my eyes out as usual, but oddly, this night it was snowing, and it doesn't snow very often in Dallas, and it just felt different. So I finally get going in my car, and I'm driving, and I'm seeing those big snowflakes hitting the windshield, and it just feels different. And so I get home and I plop myself in my comfy chair, and I decide to read Think and Grow Rich. And again, this is probably the 20th time I've read it. And this particular night, I read that your success in life comes down to your daily actions. The cumulative effect of your daily actions determine your success in each area of your life. I'm like, okay, I never thought about it that simply, but I buy that. And then I read that 95% of your daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. And I'm like, that's interesting. 95% of my daily actions are unconscious. And so now I'm sort of ready to go to bed, and I brush my teeth and wash my face and put my head on the pillow. But oddly, I'm laying there, and I can't stop thinking about what I just read, that 95% of my daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. And, then it hits me. I don't control my daily actions, yet those daily actions are the very thing that's determining my success. And that moment hit me like a bolt of lightning. And I sit up in bed, and I look out in the backyard to see the snowflakes falling. And, it totally felt surreal. And then I think, well, what controls my daily actions? Well, if 95% of them are unconscious, hey, it's my subconscious mind. It's my autopilot.
Yes.
And the subconscious mind is only responsive to repetition. And here's what was interesting. Then I realized all this time I've been controlling only my intentions with my conscious mind, not my actions, which are controlled by the subconscious mind. And that was like, wow, now it's all clicking. And I realized I wasn't underperforming because I lacked intelligence or drive. Hey, I was underperforming because I had a false belief about success that I'd had for like 50 years. And that false belief was that I controlled my daily actions. Again, and I dare say that virtually everybody in this audience has that very same false belief that you believe you control your daily actions. You don't. And once I got that and saw that my autopilot, my subconscious mind controlled my daily actions, that was life-changing, because I also realized that without programming, I was innately wired to be fear-based and reactive. And so then the full secret of Think and Grow Rich essentially comes to me. And that full secret is what you envision in detail with emotion on a daily basis is what shows up in your life. And let me say that again. What you envision in detail with emotion on a daily basis is what shows up in your life. And what that means is you create immense clarity about your life, exactly the person you want to be, exactly what you want to accomplish, and precisely how you're going to achieve your clearly defined goals. And then you take that clarity and put it on a template that I created, which basically organizes the clarity in each area of your life. And then I fed that clarity to myself each day, and it takes 12 minutes a day. And once I did that, I noticed three things happened. The first thing I noticed was I had immense sense of control over my life. Well, of course I would. I'm feeding the succinct articulation of my desired life to myself each day. Of course I'd feel control. Then the second thing I realized is that I had a much higher level of confidence, which was directly related to that control. And I also discovered that I was way less stressed because the mind thrives on order. And I was creating immense order in my mind from feeding the succinct articulation of my desired life to myself each day. And then the third thing I experienced is the right actions started happening automatically without thinking. And that was the game changer. And it was like a light came on in that moment as I started seeing that happen. And hey, I'm just playing the game of life at a higher level. So that's how it works.
So thanks for that. Hearing a part, particularly around this, actually, or maybe dive deeper into this in terms of the emotion compete piece of that, right?
Right.
Why is the emotion so significant?
Well, in Think and Grow Rich, he talks about how critical emotion is, and that's the power of crafting this template that I've created and putting it in your words. And in fact, the way the template works is I have created an AI algorithm
Okay.
where all a person has to do is answer about 50 questions and press a button, and 10 seconds later, the template is customized to your life. And I ask you, what are you emotional about? And we emphasize that in the template that comes forth. Does that make sense?
It does, and because that helps you pinpoint things that are important.
Yeah. And I'll give you an example. So we've been sort of talking about the theory of this. Let me show you a practical example of this.
Mm-hmm.
This happened 2 or 3 years ago. I had a client that lived in Portland, and he decided to come to Texas, and he and his girlfriend came to San Antonio, which is about an hour away from Austin. And so he says, "Hey, why don't you get your wife Ginger to come?" And oh, by the way, I met my wife Ginger within 2 years of doing this methodology, which was more important than the money, actually. But anyway. So we decide, okay, it's Christmas time. We're both out and about. I tell her, I say, "Ginge, meet me at Starbucks at 2 o'clock, and then we'll jump in my car and go to San Antonio and have dinner with them." And so I get there a little early, and oddly, I decide I'm going to have a brownie. It's Christmas, what the heck? So I get that brownie. I start eating that brownie. And one of the things I affirmed to myself in my 12-minute a day technique, and this is on the template, is that I'm aware of everything I put in my mouth. Well, I'm aware of it. I'm aware it doesn't taste very good, but I still eat it and finish it. And the gin shows up. We jump in the car, and I tell her, "Boy, babe, I don't feel very good. I've lost my appetite." And nevertheless, we go to San Antonio, and that night I come back home and I change one word in my template from "I'm aware of everything I put in my mouth" to "I evaluate everything I put in my mouth." And so the next night we go and have Mexican food with her son, and I order tacos. Tacos come, they're not very good, But this time I'm evaluating everything I put in my mouth and I slide those tacos away, don't have another bite. And as I'm laying in bed that night, and of course that happened automatically. It wasn't conscious, it just happened automatically.
Right.
Uh, I'm laying in bed and I'm like, boy, if that's not a superpower where you can get yourself to take the right actions automatically, I don't know what is.
Yeah, and you're taking total control, right? That's exactly what
Right,
you're doing.
right, right.
Nice. I like that. I like that. So okay, so someone starting out that's looking to, maybe they're feeling stuck and maybe they're looking to make some significant changes. Is there a particular mindset shift they need to adopt, or what should the approach be for that individual?
Well, here's something I've been thinking about lately a lot. Um, do you mind me asking how old you are?
Yeah, I'm 52.
How old?
52.
52. Oh, you are in the prime of your life. Um,
Feel
well,
great.
here's what I realize, and this is my life experience, but I think it's largely the experience of most people. When you're in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, you're not very enlightened. I wasn't. I wasn't.
Me too.
I don't know. It's something about the life experience that you got to get right, like to 50
Sure.
to
Well,
to.
interesting. I thought I was. Let's be clear here. I thought I was. I thought I knew it all, but no.
Of course you did. We all think, well, I know it all. What don't I know? But we don't know what we don't know,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
And so I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I tell my wife this. I'm like, and I just yesterday I was writing down what are the things that I'm enlightened about in my 50s and now 60s that I wasn't enlightened about, in my 30s, 40s, and 20s. And so I see that there were a number of things. I mean, like 10 different things. And when I built this template, it's built from the perspectives of somebody that's been on the planet a long time, and God knows I need to get more enlightened, but I'm damn sure a lot more enlightened than I was when I was in my 30s and 40s. And so I see that you can build that enlightenment into the template, even if the person isn't intellectually at that point yet. All they got to do is read the template and they'll be there. I mean, it's as simple as that.
hmm hmm
And one thing that I think is foundational to this that your audience will appreciate is here's how the human mind works.
Okay.
Your conscious mind sets the intention and is influenced by logic. Subconscious mind controls your daily actions, or 95% of them, and it's only influenced by repetition. And as an example, let's say you want to lose weight. Well, conscious mind sets the intention to lose weight based on the logic of the health benefits.
hmm
But people fail to lose weight not because of lack of intention, which is conscious mind. They're failing to lose weight because they're not controlling the part of them that controls their daily actions of eating and exercising,
Right.
which is the subconscious mind. And it only responds to repetition. And so that's you can see when you take the succinct articulation of your desired life, which has all the right actions that you want to take, and you feed that to yourself every day, of course it's going to impact your daily actions. Now, it takes a little while to rewire that autopilot, but after 21 days, that's why then the right actions happen automatically. Does
hmm
that logically make sense?
It does, and I'll even add the element of consistency because I can certainly see where that helps those who struggle with that. Consistency is a big challenge for a lot of people, right? In terms of being able to get out, whether a routine or a habit of some sort. And so by again instituting something where you do it, that you're doing it 21 days, it becomes automatic. You develop a new automatic skill, if you will. A way of
Right,
living.
right. Well, and one thing I get, and you may be interested about this as well, it's like I get the question, well, how did you really take your income from 200 grand a year to 5 million a year? I mean, explain, well, how did that actually happen? Well, here's how it happened. So, um, I really see it, it comes down to a couple of things. First of all, I started doing three key high performance skills that I wasn't doing in my 30s and 40s. And those three skills were, first of all, I became highly organized, where I was planning my day the night before and time blocking my day. Well, I wasn't necessarily doing that in my 30s and 40s.
Right.
And I saw in my 50s, because when I was blessed to be making 5 million a year, I was very analytical about why that is happening. You know, that was the CPA in me coming out. I'm like, why is this happening? And I saw that the first thing that had to happen is I had to be highly organized. I had to be a friggin' 10 on a scale of 1 to 10, because if you're not a 10, you're not going to be highly successful. I mean, that's just reality. Then the second skill that I saw is I had to start deep thinking 2 times a week.
Right.
Just setting aside the time to think, which is a habit the top entrepreneurs in the world, people like Elon Musk and Bill Gates, do. I mean, come on, you got to be stepping back from your life a couple times a week and thinking. So I developed a three-step process, and it's simple. And so that was the second skill. And then the third skill was you got to be a conduit of learning, where you have the wisdom of experts flowing into your head consistently every week, but it's got to be strategic relative to what you want to accomplish. And you got to use a system. So I created a simple system. Well, those things, those three skills were things I was doing when I was blessed to me making big money that I wasn't doing when I was in my 30s and 40s. And all that was articulated in the template. And then the other component was I had a much deeper understanding of my business and my life from taking my business and really analyzing it in 6 areas. I would define, here's my succinct business plan. Here's my strategy for success. Here's the 2 or 3 things that move the needle. Here's where I want my business to be in 3 years. Here's the 4 or 5 milestones to get there. And here's the linchpin issue to go to the next level. And when I defined all those things, and I would feed that to myself every day, I continually had a deeper and deeper understanding of both myself and my business. And it was that combination of that deeper understanding coupled with being able to do those foundational high performance skills that made all the difference in the world. And it all happened automatically without thinking.
Right. Again, that consistency, and that builds on that consistency thing, and it just happens, and you're not planning, trying to organize it. It just make I guess it gets to a point where it just comes to you, right? And you're not even doing anything, and it's like, they talk about like passive income, that just happens, and you're not doing anything.
Right.
That's
well, that's right. And I think you sort of are hitting on it in that most people have never, all they've tried to do is influence their conscious mind with their intentions.
Yeah.
They've never tried to actually control the part of themselves that is responsible for their unconscious actions. And I think one of the things that I think is powerful that I would like to make a difference with your audience is this, and pay attention to this, please. So the most significant thing I ever learned in my life was that 95% of my daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. I mean, once I got that, then it was a whole new ball game.
Right.
And that fact is very researchable. Like if you go on Google and you key in what percentage of my daily thoughts and actions are unconscious, you'll see in big dark letters it'll say 95%. And so I'm curious, do you buy that 95% of your daily?
Oh, absolutely. It's sort of played out in my life. I think one of the things that is a key indicator is like how many times you get in the car, you drive somewhere, and you don't remember the journey. You have no idea.
Exactly.
I'm here. How did I get here?
Exactly. Well, think about this, Audley. This is what I find interesting that I've really been thinking about lately. I think it's counterintuitive that 95% of your daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. Because here's what I think most people, they sort of intellectually know that that's true,
Yeah. Hmm.
but they don't really believe it because it's counterintuitive. And what I mean by that is they go, well, wait a minute. I'm conscious of everything that I'm doing. Therefore, none of my actions are unconscious. I'm 100% conscious, and none of my daily actions are unconscious. Well, I get why they would think that. But the reality is, here's what the science says. What happens is you take an action unconsciously, and then a couple of milliseconds later, you become aware of it.
Hmm.
And I want to show you something that's pretty cool.
Okay.
Let's ask GPT right now about this. Watch this. You'll
Yeah.
find
Yeah.
this interesting.
Yeah.
I call her G. G, are you there?
Color G.
Yes, I'm here. What can I do for you?
So let me ask you a question about success.
Of
So
course.
so here's my question. Is it true that 95% of your daily actions are unconscious?
Yes, that's accurate. Research suggests that a significant portion of our daily actions are driven by unconscious habits and routines.
So I understand that what's really going on is that you actually take the action unconsciously first, and then a few milliseconds later, you become aware of it. Is that right?
That's a common understanding. Many of our actions are initiated unconsciously, and we become aware of them only slightly after they've started.
So, what's the scientific evidence to support that?
Studies in neuroscience, such as those by Benjamin Libet, show that brain activity indicating a decision can be detected before a person is consciously aware of it. This suggests that actions often start unconsciously.
So, give me a couple of examples. Like, give me a couple examples of this.
Sure. For example, when you're driving and suddenly brake without consciously thinking about it, that's often your unconscious mind reacting to a potential danger. Another example is when you find yourself humming a tune you heard earlier without realizing it. Your unconscious mind often kicks in before you're fully aware.
Thank you. So, I think the power of that is, you've done 500 plus episodes, and people say all sorts of facts, and you don't know if it's fully true or not. But I think the power of that is, again, the most significant thing I ever learned was that 95% of my daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. And there's third party verification right here
Sure.
that that's true. And
Yeah.
so the main thing I want your audience to do, especially when they lay down tonight and put their head on the pillow, I want them to have that same epiphany that I had, that I'm like, oh my God, my daily actions determine my success, and I don't control them today. And for me to have a higher level of success, I got to gain control of my autopilot. And this is the method for doing it. And it takes 12 minutes a day.
Mm, mm. Well, I mean, again, Chat GPT has spoken. Thank you, G, for the insights there for sure. But I agree with you. And the interesting thing is, look, again, after 500 episodes, there've been a few conversations about success and how to get there, and the power of thoughts and our thinking. And continually, when I engage in these conversations, it's always, okay, so, well, how did you get there? How do you, what is your understanding? What made you, what's led you to believe that? And so, I appreciate checking in with G there to verify,
Right.
what to be is true.
Well, that's only the second or third time I've ever done that on a podcast.
I love it.
And so I'm glad she was responsive to me, but I'm glad you liked it.
No, yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's good. I mean, I tell you, maybe we should ask you, how do I make $5 million like you a year? Right? I mean, that's the next question. We'll say,
Well, I can tell you what she would tell you. she'd say, your daily actions determine your success. Take the right damn daily actions.
Right.
And
There you go.
95% of them are unconscious. So, baby, get control of those unconscious daily actions. That's what she'd say.
Yeah, no, I would say you're probably right. More than likely, you're right. So that's it. I love that.
You know, no, go ahead. As you,
I was really curious about, have you had any success stories from readers who said, okay, John, you told me this thing, let me try it out. Oh, wow, my life has changed. Have you had that feedback, anything like that?
thousands of times.
Wow.
You know, and I'll tell you what was totally life changing for me, and I know you will appreciate this. So a few years ago, I decided I'm gonna if I'm gonna spend my life doing this and sharing this with the world, I'm gonna go find the top expert in the world on success, whoever he or she may be, and show what I created to see if there's anything similar to it. Are there any flaws in it? You know, just I want the truth. And so I decided that Darren Hardy is the top expert in the world on success.
Mhm.
And so I write a big check. I fly out to California for 3 days, and the moment comes, and I sit down with Darren, and I hand him my template, and I explain how it works, and he looks at it and goes, John, this is good. In fact, this is really good. But he says, John, people are not going to spend 12 minutes a day on this. And I'm like, how the hell can that be? I mean, it's 25x my income. Time Magazine did a cover story on the science behind it.
Yep.
And we're applying the central concept of the top book of the world on success to people's lives. What do you mean they're not going to spend 12 minutes a day on it? He goes, John, the dirty little secret in the success business is that for most people, more success is merely a preference, merely a preference. And he says, that is 98% of people. And he says, what you've got is only for people that are driven, because the 98% are not going to take the 12 minutes a day it takes, nor are they going to make the effort to create the clarity that's required to make the methodology work. Mm. And once he told me that, and again, this is 5 or 6 years ago, I'm like, I used to think it was for everybody because we live in this culture of everybody wants to be more successful. And so then I'm like, it changed my focus. I'm like, well, I'm just going to go find people like myself, you know, entrepreneurs typically that are making 200 grand a year that want to make $1 million a year. And so I started teaching my methodology to them, and I would give them a money back guarantee that if I couldn't double their income within a year, I'd give them their money back. And, you know, typically I'd charge them 20 grand. And, you know, if you played out the math, the return would be 35 or 40 to 1 on over 3 years of what they make in return. And then I started documenting it every time because I never had anybody that I couldn't honor my guarantee. And so I've documented every time that happened. And and it took me probably 2 years to really do all that. And ultimately, after I'd done about 10 or 11 of them, then I'm like, well, wait a minute. The leveraged way for me to go forward in my life is to license my methodology to coaches rather than for me to personally do it. Because I got a big plate.
That's right.
Teaching my methodology at the University of Texas. And so that's what evolved with me. But it was totally enlightening to see that what I got is not for the 98%. I don't want to deal with the 98%. I wish them the best. Give me the 2%ers.
And focus your time and energy there, right? And
exactly.
You know, in fact, it's almost like again, trying to get that 90. It's so far reaching and so far spread, and to be able to, you know, it's like catching, you know, they're herding cats, right? Like they're all over the place.
Exactly. But you know, there's a lot of 2%ers I see, right?
There are. Oh yeah. There's a lot. There's still, if you think about people on this planet, there's still a lot of people that even just the 2%. There's a lot to work with.
Right. Well, and I see that what I bring to the success and human achievement field is is different than everybody else. And I personally see a flaw in the field in that there's a lot of brilliant people in the success and human achievement field, and they're teaching people strategies. And oftentimes the strategies are great strategies. But hey, we've got strategies coming out our ears. What we need is great strategies to show up automatically in our actions, and that's what we need. And I don't see anybody teaching a way of doing life. That's what
Mm.
my methodology is. It's an actual, tangible way of doing life based on the top book of the world on success. And it takes 12 minutes a day. And I don't see anybody else in the field teaching that. And so I'm proud of that.
And when you think about that piece, a way of life, I mean, the ripple effects are, the possibilities are endless into the work and go, or how far people can achieve, and the plateaus that they can break. And so I love the intentional focus on that. Um, John, I mean, this has been just a phenomenal chat, and I've really much appreciated the insights. Obviously, having G make a guest appearance and giving her thoughts are nice too. But I think what you have to share is just simply wonderful, and forces people to be conscious about the unconscious, if you will, right?
Right, right.
That's a
Well,
fascinating
let
point.
me adjust that a little. I'm
Okay, sure.
glad you said that
Yeah,
because what people sort of think is, oh, I need to make the unconscious more conscious. No, that's not how it works.
right, right.
What we're talking about is taking control of the unconscious. It's always going to be
Yes, I
95.5.
know we're not changing.
But what you said is exactly what subconsciously I think people think. Oh, I'm going to
Gotcha.
make it more conscious.
Yeah,
No, you're
yeah.
just going to gain control over that 95%.
So being conscious about the subconscious.
Yes, yes, exactly. That great way to put it. Great
Gotcha.
way to put it.
I appreciate the course correction there. Finally, if there's kind of one audacious tip that you can share with listeners to help them unlock their full potential. I kind of have a sense of where it's going to go, but I'm going to ask you anyways. What would that be?
Well, here's what I see. I mean, I'd be sort of curious what your experience in life has been, but I see that you got to work smarter, not harder, and you got to have an edge in life, something that gives you an edge. Because if you don't have something that gives you an edge, you're getting the average life. And that's what this 12-minute a day technique does for myself and my clients is it gives them an edge. And just think about this. Imagine that there is a pill that you could take, and if you took this pill, you'd be more successful in your career. Where you're taking the right actions and they're happening automatically. And then with this pill, you're also seeing at the same time it's impacting your romantic relationship. There's a way that you need to be with your significant other, and imagine that this pill makes you be that way without thinking. And then imagine that this pill also impacts your health, where you have control over your eating and exercise in a way you never had before.
Mhm.
Well, such a pill does exist, but you have to take it every day, and it takes 12 minutes a day to swallow it. This, I mean, that's how I look at it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you provided a wonderful framework and the starting point for individuals to go down that path and to spend their 12 minutes wisely per day. And I think that's a beautiful way that you're really helping people get to that next level, if you will. John, so let's tell listeners where they can get a copy of your book, and if they wanted to connect with you directly to maybe learn more insights and whatnot, where can we send them?
So go to themissingsecret.org, the www.themissingsecret.org. And I've got something special for your audience.
Okay.
I've got a 9-minute video that explains the full secret and the science and that's free. So all they got to do is go to that URL, themissingSecret.org, and get that video, and then you can also see how to get in contact with me. But that's the way to do it.
Awesome. We'll make sure that the contact details are in the show notes below, and that way we'll direct them there. John, this has been fabulous. Off the jump, I was excited to chat with you, and you held the forum and made it really insightful, informative, and fun. And so thank you for that. And congratulations on the work that you've done up to this point. I'm sure there's lots more in store for you. And thank you again for being a guest on the Audacious Living Podcast.
Thank you. Could I share one final thought?
Sure you can.
I think this puts it in perspective, and it's you'll find this interesting. So about 3 years ago, I became a grandfather. Are you a grandfather?
Not yet.
Well, your day is coming. And so I became a grandfather 3 years ago, and we go over to my stepdaughter's house the day after the baby was born. And of course, there's a lot of oohing and eyeing about the baby. And for some reason, Hannah and Ginger hand me the baby and walk away. So I'm holding this precious little girl in my arms, and I'm feeling the warmth of her body, and she's a day old. And I start to cry. I'm like, tears are pouring down my face, because I'm realizing how precious life is and how precious this little life is. And I realize she's going to live for 100 years, literally 100 years. And I see that the enjoyment of her life and the success of her life comes down to the thoughts that are going on in her head most of the time. And so, by God, I'm going to impact the creation of her thoughts so that she has a happy, productive, and meaningful life. And this applies to your audience, because your life is precious. Your life is precious. And tonight, when you put your head on the pillow, just think, if the next 5 years are like the last 5 years, will you be happy with that? Well, if the answer is no, just stop winging life. You now have a chance to change it, to create the life you desire, and it only takes 12 minutes a day.
Beautifully said. Beautifully
Okay.
said. Thank you. Thank you for that, John.
Okay.
Really
Thank you.
appreciate that. Back we are here on the podcast. In our conversation, John revealed the profound impact that emotional control and high performance skills have on our success. He emphasized the importance of articulating clear life goals, which can lead to automatic alignment of our actions with those aspirations. I personally loved how John's approach combines practical techniques with a deep understanding of the subconscious mind, making his methods accessible to anyone willing to commit to the process. Now, if you want to connect with John directly, you can certainly find his contact details in the show notes below, and don't miss out on the special offer. He's got a 9-minute video for absolutely free that explains the full secret behind his success methodology, and you can find that at the millionaire.org. I want to thank you for tuning into another episode of the Audacious Living Podcast. If you found value in today's conversation with John Mitchell, I encourage you to like, follow, or share this episode with someone you think could benefit from it. Your support helps our podcast to grow, allowing us to continue to bring more inspiring content to help you live your life audaciously. Now, as we wrap up, remember that just as a conductor leads an orchestra to create beautiful music, you have the power to take control of your life symphony. Embrace the clarity of your goals and that your actions harmonize with your dreams. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stephenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.